This is a centuries-old story. In Baghdad, there was a small town called About. Its streets made of mud and stone. Every morning, the bazaar would come alive. The sharp fragrance of spices filled the air. Brass and copper utensils gleamed in the sunlight, and the colorful silks shone like rainbows. The loud voices of traders bargaining made the whole market throb with life. In that same town lived a well-known but extremely greedy merchant named Jamal. He had a round face, a shiny, bald head, and small, sharp eyes. He was polite in speech but shrewd in deals, so much that people often said Jamal can read the weight of a man's purse just by looking at him. One hot afternoon, when the sun was filtering through the awnings of the shops, a stranger entered the market. His appearance made it clear he had traveled far. A dust-covered white cloak wrapped around him, an old cloth bag slung over his shoulder, and despite his weariness, there was a strange peace on his face. He slowly walked through the bazaar, looking at the shops one by one, until he stopped in front of Jamal's shop, where silk, perfumes, and shining utensils were beautifully displayed. Jamal looked up, smiled, and said, "Traveler, you seem tired. The journey must have been long." The traveler smiled faintly and replied, "Yes, the journey was long, but the real journey is yet to begin." Jamal chuckled and said, "Perhaps you'll find what you seek here. But remember, everything here has a price, whether it's goods or knowledge." The traveler said calmly, "I will pay the price, but on one condition. The buyer and the seller must recognize each other." Jamal was puzzled. For a brief moment, the noise of the market faded into silence. Nearby shopkeepers turned their heads. They knew this was no ordinary bargain. The bold merchant and the dust-covered traveler stood face to face. Their eyes locked, as if some unseen game of fate had just begun. Jamal maintained his polite smile and said softly, "There's mystery in your words, traveler. But remember, even secrets have a price here." The traveler took the bag off his shoulder, placed it gently on the ground, but didn't open it. His eyes stayed fixed on Jamal's. He said, "I will pay the price, but only if you have the courage to listen. What I'm about to tell you, your ears will hear for the first time, and your heart may find it heavy." Jamal tried to laugh, but there was a tremor in his voice. The people in the inn grew quiet. He said, "Fine. I'm ready, but not here. Come to my caravan inn. We talk, tere, and make the deal." The traveler smiled faintly. "Lead the way. But remember, the first step of this journey is yours, not mine." They walked through the narrow streets toward the inn. The heat shimmered in the air. The sound of camel bells echoed, and the scene seemed wrapped in mystery. Inside the inn, dim lamps hung from old wooden beams. The faint light spread across patterned carpets. Jamal gestured for the travala to sit. A few caravan men rested nearby, but as the two entered, silence swept through the place, everyone waiting to hear what was about to unfold. Jamal offered a cup of water. The traveler took it but placed it down, untouched. He said quietly, "There will be time to quench thirst later, but some words, if not spoken at the right time, lose all their value." A drop of sweat rolled down Jamal's forehead. "All right," he said. "What's in your bag? What's the deal?" The traveler slowly opened the bag. A faint golden glow flickered inside, but he didn't fully reveal it. Everyone craned their necks, trying to catch a glimpse. The traveler took a deep breath and said, "This thing has crossed deserts, storms, and dangers, but you will only have it if you answer one question correctly." Jamal raised an eyebrow. "A question? And if I fail?" The traveler's eyes rested on Jamal's bald head for a moment. Then he said softly, "Then it's not meant for you, and this town will be left only with a tale." The air grew thick. Even the walls seemed to lean closer. Jamal stared at him, and then nodded. "Ask your question, but remember, Jamal never gives a wrong answer." The traveler smiled slightly. "Tell me, what is the one thing every merchant possesses? But once he loses it, he remains empty-handed, even with all his wealth." The room froze. Jamal's eyes flickered pride and confusion battling inside him. He looked around, his lips trembling, as though testing the weight of the answer in his heart. Finally, he took a deep breath, looked at the ground, and said slowly, "That thing is trust." As the word left his lips, a heavy silence filled the room. The traveler looked into his eyes and said, "It took you 10 years to remember that. In those 10 years, you weighed only gold, never hearts." Jamal's face changed. The color of realization and regret washed over it. Old memories came flooding back. The partner he cheated. The villagers who had trusted him with their life savings. The traveler quietly placed the bag before him and said, "Here it is. But remember, its weight is not of gold. It's the weight of your decision." Jamal's trembling hands reached forward, then stopped. He knew the moment he touched it, his life would take a different turn. He took a long, shaking breath and said, "This isn't mine. I've spent my life taking. Perhaps now it's time to give." The traveler smiled for the first time. Some treasures are not made of gold. Those who recognize them are the richest of all. He picked up his bag, turned toward the door, and stepped into the sunlight. His shadow melted into the dust, and the noise of the market swallowed him forever. Jamal stood by the door for a long time, the traveler's last words echoing in his mind. Trust is not only earned, it must also be returned. From that day on, Jamal changed. He cleared his old debts, returned what he had taken, and became known not as a shrewd trader, but as an honest man. He learned that when trust is restored, it brings more peace than 1,000 trades. As for the traveler, no one ever saw him again. Some say he walked toward the northern valleys, perhaps to test another heart in another town. Others whisper that he was no ordinary traveler at all, but a messenger, sent to remind man that greed darkens the soul. And once his message is delivered, it disappears like the sun fading at dusk. Years later, Jamal would often tell his students about that day. He searched through every corner of the bazaar and all the inns in town, trying to find that mysterious traveler. But he was never seen again. Perhaps, Jamal would say, he was just an ordinary man. Or maybe only a legend. Yet, his words were so real, so deeply engraved in Jamal's heart, that even today, Jamal could still feel as if that traveler might walk through the door any moment and say, "Jamal son, now it's your turn to teach this lesson to someone else." My friends, today's story reminds us that once upon a time, a bald merchant named Jamal learned a truth greater than all his wealth, that real treasure lies not in gold or silver, but in trust and honesty. Moral of the story: when a person recognizes the thief within the greed, the deceit, he becomes the richest and most peaceful soul in the world.